Back in the mid-2000s, the Infiniti G35 was introduced, and because of its awkward parental history and the fact that Infiniti, at home, and it just didn't work with how, American market, what they called it in Japan, what they called it in America, they called it the Nissan Skyline. But some people were happy and some people were a little upset, but it was basically the equivalent of the top-of-the-range Skyline sold in Japan at the time. That's an actual thing. That's why people call a G35 a Skyline. But there's another car that shares a little bit of that similar history with a much better ending than what most G35 look like these days. Those poor, poor headlights. I'm Alex @FI on Instagram, and today we're going to be talking about a car that nearly decimated every single car out there in the same exact market, including its own transmission. A car that made people forget about the 370Z update for at least 7 to 8 years because they were just so happy with Nissan at the time that they could have bricks and it would have been gold. A car that immediately became the go-to platform for making Lamborghinis cry at Texas 2K. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about you wanting to own an R35 Nissan GT-R. And if you're just jumping into this video, it'd be super sweet if you subscribe, but I really don't even know what that button does anymore, but it'd still be kind of cool. And if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to check us out over at fitmentindustries.com, where we literally have everything your little heart could possibly desire. I will give anyone a shiny quarter that can tell me how many times I have said that either on purpose or on accident. TikTok does not count. Also, we're launching our own wheel brands, Artisan Wheels. Go check it out. It's kind of like a plug, but it's gonna be pretty exciting. And if you guys didn't know that, we are also giving away a set of Rotiform wheels. You can check out the description link below. If you pick up a t-shirt or a hat, it gets you an automatic entry in to win a free set of Rotiform wheels. It's pretty awesome. The first GT-R to be offered in the United States, dubbed the R35, did not carry the Skyline name at all. And when it came out, it bullied quite a few kids on the playground, all right? You see, the good old GT-R was a nameplate for Nissan, mostly between 1969 to 1974, and then again in 1989 to 2002. However, when bringing it into the United States, the Nissan powers that be declared that it's not a Skyline because it had a different chassis. It had different styling and different bodywork, save for the good old Morty eyeballs in the back of the car, which were inherently the taillights. I mean, sure, it had the same methodology of having a success of a Skyline. It had the all-wheel drive system. It had a twin-turbo V6, a fancy center dash that had a bunch of gauges in it, but that was about it. What we do know, though, is that it still can and should be called Godzilla. Gojira. It's a great movie. The first one was fantastic. The second one, not so much. It got a little weird in King of the Monsters. Where was I? Oh yeah, playground bullying. GT-R was pretty much inherently a bully, okay? The GT-R debuted at the 2007 Tokyo Motor Show.
The all-new Nissan GT-R.
Carrying the body that was the Porsche 911 turbo lap time around the Nürburgring. The GT-R would run the ring right about 7.5 minutes, flat. All right, more than 9 seconds faster than the 911 Turbo, which was a big deal. Porsche would come back and actually say it was fake news, claiming Nissan used semi-slick tires to reduce the low time versus the tires that came on the car from the factory. Now, to get this, Porsche was so upset that they actually brought their own GT-R, or bought it, or borrowed it, we're not entirely sure where the story goes from there, flew it to Germany themselves and ran the car, and then stated publicly that there is no way Nissan's car could beat their turbo track time because not even they could beat their own track time with the GT-R. Well, I mean, that's kind of funny and also kind of butthurt. Nissan's response, though, they released a second video of the lap as proof of the lap time. Photos of the tires, which were Dunlops at the time, that were used actually in the run were also photographed and sent out, and they also claimed that they were at a disadvantage because of the 50 kilograms of testing equipment that they probably could have ran a faster lap without it. Overall, they just showed Porsche to please be quiet and just sit back down. One last little stab before going off and hurting more feelings, especially those in the Ferrari world. Nissan then offered free driver training to Porsche if they wanted to attempt a second lap with their own GT-R. Those are fighting words. GT-R was a bully, all right? Even with only 480 horsepower and 430 foot-pounds of torque out of this first Nissan GT-R, the Nissan was a danger to pretty much any other performance car when it was released. The VR38 DE motor was built specifically by individuals called Takumi craftsmen in a special area of Nissan's Yokohama plant. I'm not kidding, it was like 4 people. It was Isumi Shioya, Nobumitsu Gozu, Tsunemi Oyama, and Takumi Kurosawa. Woo! God, that was hard to learn. The valve clearance is done by machine, but nearly everything else is done by hand. And by using the experience of these four, having in addition to the massive history of Nissan sports car success, which was the R34, R33, and R32 of the previous generation GTRs, the car was pretty much an immediate success. And it was a pretty good price when it came out. The car was built by the dreams of 18-year-olds. It was a twin-turbo V6. It was designed by Shiro Nakamura, who took the inspiration and likening of the GTR, the R35, to the giant robots of Gundam, okay? I don't know what else you want. It's a tuner, fast car. It's like, I don't remember the intro, but it was a really good show. I remember Gundam. My dad didn't want to let me watch it. The center console was made by Gran Turismo. Like, who wouldn't want a car made from Japan that's like fast as whoops? It was only $78,000. Looks like a Gundam suit and has a video game center dash. And it was easy to drive. And it also had a big warranty right when it came off the factory. And the answer to that question, friends and family, is no one.
No one.
No one would not want this. The Nissan GT-R would get consistently updated nearly every single year. And although the cars destroyed, there were still new cars. So they suffered from like minor little issues like transmission issues, some ECU mapping refinements, and a couple 2-3 wiring improvements, and of course fixing their headlights. I don't know what it is with Nissan and just not having good headlights, but it's just something that will plague them to the end of days. 2010, it would get bumped up to 485 horsepower from 480. 2012 would see it jump up to 530. 2013 was around 545, and now it's kicking out to right around 565 horsepower with 2017 and newer. The changes throughout the year focused on the mapping, the valve timing, and the refinements of the structural strength of the car. It was just like little tweaks, little changes, okay? The car had all the right pieces though, but instead of trying to introduce the brand to a new generation, Nissan just did the typical Nissan thing and just kept refining it year over year. They just do the same thing with the 370Z, but the 370Z is in desperate need of an update. The car's history itself is hilarious. They had to figure out how to handle what to call launch control when they actually like introduced the car to the consumer public, okay? That could have voided their warranty. They didn't even know what to do with that. They ended up having to remap it because the launch control was too aggressive. They didn't want to call it launch control. It crushed an 11-second lap time, and now the new generation goes 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds. Yes, I get it. You're gonna make a joke. We can read the brochure, but still, that's insane. The car broke records. It was in Super GT, and it was in FIA GT, it was in GT3, it was in Tarmac Rallies, it was in Targa West, it was in SCCA. The AMS performance made the car run a 7-second pass with 2,000 horsepower. Not even a GTR anymore. Alpha did their Panda GTR in 6.5 seconds. Like, what do you want from this car? The first 6 years of production, it won 24 different awards. And although Nissan tried its damnedest to lock up the ECU from being tunable, cheat codes in the magazine, all right? Up, down, BBA start, all right? That's all you gotta do. People found them and it worked out great. But we're not here to just talk about the history of the GTR and the fact that it is, even if you take the subjectiveness out of it, a pretty damn good car. We're here to talk about you wanting to own one of these bad boys. So you want a Nissan GT-R. Well, set down your Volks and grab your favorite Liberty Walk kit because we're about to talk about what it's like to actually own one of these vehiculars. All right? If you want to jump into a Nissan GT-R, there's a couple 2-3 things that you need to know beforehand. First off, they are extremely quick, but the earlier generations do have issues. If you're going to try and actually pick one up, the best thing to do is try and get one 2012 or newer. Number 2, they're going to get you in trouble. All right? While Nissan purposely downplayed the power of the car, it's still a lot to send 480 horsepower to all 4 wheels through a newer platform. This has resulted in some people not having the most enjoyable of times with their transmissions, with control solenoids failing. Launch control essentially can snap first gear if you do it often enough. And because Nissan is Nissan too, they never really service their transmissions. They only replace them. So if something goes wrong with your transmission, they would just give you a new one, which is a little bit of a bad taste in people's mouth when the repair is a little bit above $10,000. Just like other Nissans too, their headlamps have an issue with condensation. We talked about that before. It's okay, but they have that and they're just never really gonna fix figure it out. The interiors can get a little bit rattly after a while, and if you sit in one, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, but it's still a Nissan too, so it's shared parts with like the Maximas and Altimas of the same periods. But you're not buying the car inherently for the interior, but you might be a little bit underwhelmed if you pick up one and you've never sat in the interior of a GTR before. For number 2 though, that should be pretty self-explanatory. The car is trying to just make sure you get pulled over. The car drives insanely well. It has so much gadgetry that doesn't prevent you from feeling like you're not in control, which is good sometimes for people like you and people like me, okay? At 500 horsepower, you'll beat most of the things that are on the street and look really good doing so. 2013 GTRs have just, they're just like a warm potato with butter. Modifications for these cars can exist anywhere. You can do just about anything you want. The community is massive, the support is huge, and the Texas 2K builds are plentiful. You can make these things fast, like super fast, and it's scary, all right? It can be almost a little bit overbearing if you pick up a GTR because you're immediately gonna be met with, hey bro, 800 horsepower yet? Got it, bro. Well, that does exist. It is a very real thing. People just don't keep GTR stock, and if you do, people don't like you. People run mostly staggered and aggressive setups with these cars, mostly on the higher up wheels too. You're looking at 20x10 and 20x12s is pretty common, and then you're looking at designs coming in from either Volk, BBS, Advan, or Velgen. Velgen Wheels does a lot with GTRs. Stock, these cars are pretty incredible. Built for the track, they do well. As a show car, they look good. As a daily, they actually do pretty good. You could put one in the wintertime. You just might crack your bumper. And as a used value, they aren't that bad either when you're comparing it to other cars in the price bracket. And while newer ones are a wee bit too expensive and competition from the domestic side of the field has gotten much closer, especially in recent years, the used market for these cars is spot on, and definitely a car you could jump into and enjoy for a few years. Is there a lot of fanboyism around the R35? Absolutely. Is it without mistakes or issues? No, but it is a fantastic platform that you can do a lot with, which is why so many people drive them. But what do you think about the Nissan GT-R? Let us know, and of course, if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries. No, I don't own a GT-R, and we will see you later. Peace.